Afternoon, Tri Cities. I'm Karl Dye from TRIDEC, and it's 1 o'clock. Time for Coffee with Karl, a special edition. We are celebrating our 22nd annual economic outlook. And so instead of doing one big meeting, we are doing these virtual meetings spread out throughout the month of March. And today we're going to be talking with our local representatives of higher education. So it's my pleasure to introduce, in no particular order, Rebekah Woods, who's the president of Columbia Basin College. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us.
You bet. And Sandra Haynes, the Chancellor of WSU Tri Cities. Hi, Sandra.
Hi. You're always so diplomatic about that.
Like just saying no particular order.
No particular order.
Right. I think that's good. I think, we just want to say, hey, we're all on the same team and just, no order, yeah. I think I'm just maybe sensitive to the perception of university versus college, and just we're all here in the Tri Cities doing great stuff.
We are.
That's right. That's right.
And I think last time you guys were on, I learned that you're both, have a counseling experience and background. So Sandra, I appreciate you pointing that out. I think that was really good coaching and counseling for me.
It's a good skill, Karl. It's a very good skill.
Oh, I'm rambling. We better get to our our coffee or our mug pour. So we'll kick our discussion off with our discussion about what we're drinking. I have the my new Love the Tri thermal flask, which is awesome. And so I'm done with coffee. I'm going for the water. And I just think, being a newcomer to the Tri Cities is just awesome to be here. And, both of your colleges and universities are a big part of that, and along with the weather and everything else. So I love the Tri.
Could not agree more.
There you go. Let's go to Sandra first.
So I have changed to water too. It has a few bubbles in the water because I do like my seltzer water, but it is in my WSU Tri Cities clear glass mug. I've been resisting calling it a beer mug, but because it's not beer.
Right. It's just sparkling water. That's awesome.
Just sparkling water.
Really cool. And Rebekah, what do you have for?
So I don't know if you can see it. It's CBC travel mug. And so actually we partnered with our foundation and sent employee recognition boxes out in January. And this was one of the items that was included. And so I have, as you guys moved past my coffee, but I am still finishing up my first pot of tea. So yes.
And we might have talked about that before, but what kind of tea do you like?
I do a combo of green and detox.
Oh, sounds pretty good, actually.
It is tasty. And I put a little lemon in it. It helps you absorb all the good stuff. So yeah, try to keep healthy.
That's awesome. Well, for those of you joining us today on Zoom, we'll use the question and answer feature as we go through today's presentations. If you have a question, feel free to put it in the question and answer box, and we'll get to it in the second part of the hour. If you're on social media, you can ask a question in the comment section, and we'll get to your questions as well. But I think we'll have a great discussion today, and we're going to learn about what's going on for higher education here in the Tri Cities. And so we are, as per our order, we're going to start with Rebekah and her presentation. I think Tracy's going to run the slideshow. So take it away, Rebekah.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. So I always have pictures of students in our presentations, but even more so now because I so miss seeing them. So any opportunity to be reminded of our amazing students and why we do what we do every day, it's a great opportunity. So next slide, please. So just a quick overview of CBC. Kind of hit some of the high points. So we serve over 11,000 students each year. That's everything from learning English to pursuing one of our baccalaureate programs. We do have over 100 different programs that we offer. That includes 8 baccalaureate programs as well as 53 different workforce certificates. We have a very diverse student population. More than 40% is first generation. No surprises. We are one of 6 Hispanic serving institutions, and more than 40% of our students' enrollment is Hispanic. We do try to offer that full college experience with both housing as well as athletics on campus right now. Next slide, please. So most folks are aware of the goal that was set for our state. This came out of a report from, it was both the Boston Consulting Group and the Washington Roundtable, and talking about the projected number of increased jobs that were coming to the state and how we were going to be able to meet the demand the workforce needs to be able to fill those jobs. And so the goal that was set by 2030 was that 70% of Washington students were going to be able to needed to earn some type of post-secondary credential by age 26. Next slide, please. I used the data from the Benton Franklin Trends website, which is a great website to pull just an amazing amount, and you can really kind of slice and dice it different ways, the data that pertains to both our counties, and you can even narrow it down to specific cities. But when we look at where we are for Benton and Franklin, so this is showing those age 25 and over that have some college or an associate's degree. For Benton and Franklin, we're neck and neck with the state of Washington. So we both have close to 33% of our population is in one of those categories. And we're actually higher than the US percentage for that. Next slide, please. But when we look at the bachelor's degree or higher, we are lagging behind both the state as well as the US. And you can see we're about close to 10 percentage points less than the state overall, which is at 37, and we're not quite at 30 or at 28. Next slide, please. So we know we have some work to do, and the pandemic, unfortunately, has just exacerbated the issue. So this is the data that's coming out of the National Student Clearinghouse. And so when you look at the undergraduate enrollments across the country, they have been declining. It was not necessarily a surprise. Overall, it's a little more than 4%. I think the surprise that most community colleges had was how much it was impacting the community college enrollments, because typically community college enrollments are countercyclical to the economy. So when the economy is struggling, folks are losing their jobs, they're enrolling in the community college. So our enrollments go up, but we actually are getting hit harder than the four-year institutions. So across the country, we're down about 10%. Next slide, please. The biggest impact is in brand new students. So those that are choosing to sit out and not even begin their college education this fall. So I just narrowed it down here specifically for the 2 years. So the community colleges across the country, all undergraduates are down 13, but the community college freshmen are down 19%. But another concern, I guess, is also that the achievements, the disparities that existed before the pandemic are being exacerbated and made even worse during the pandemic. So we're losing even larger number of students that are in different persons of color and different populations that are typically underrepresented in higher education. So that you can see overall the freshmen are down close to 19%, but for example, Hispanic enrollment is down over 27%. And again, this is in two-year colleges across the country. Next slide, please. This has continued to hold true in our state as well. So our system specifically, so all 34 community and technical colleges, our fall to fall headcount between 19 and 2020, again, continuing students are down about 14%. New students, though, are down across our state 32% in all 34 colleges. And again, the reductions, the decreases, the declines that we're seeing within different populations of color are even larger than that, which is very concerning. Next slide, please. And this has continued to hold true for our enrollment as well. So the continuing students, overall, our FTEs and headcount, we were down less than 10%, which was very exciting for us, which you're typically not excited about a less than 10%. But what we saw happening across the state, we were glad to see that we were doing better than that. So we have about a little more than 5% continuing students. New students is a bigger decline for us, and those that have never been a traditional CBC student is even more significant. Next slide, please. And again, we're seeing the same kind of discrepancies and disparities between some of our student populations. So having bigger declines than our overall student populations. And you can see the numbers there. And I know I am getting close to my short on time already. So I'm going to just let you read those and go on to the next slide, please. So some of the things that we already had in place, but are becoming even more important now, are making sure that we have those pipelines, those partnerships in place with K-12s as well as our four-year institutions. And so one of those that will be, we're very excited about, that will be kicking off this fall, is the Career Connect Tech program. We're one of 2 pilots in the state, and this was absolutely due. Great thanks goes to Commissioner Brian Marino from the Washington State Commission on Hispanic Affairs. He was the one who brought this concept to our community, and you can see all the amazing partners there: Pasco School District, WSU Tri Cities, our business and industry with Hanford Mission, Integration Solutions, LIGO, and this is going, and PNNL, and this is going to be, when students are admitted to this program, it will be housed on our campus in the New Horizons School. And we just received that career launch endorsement for this program. Next slide, please. Another great thing, again, that is being piloted in our community is the Washington Workforce Portal. Working with wonderful partners from the Chamber to AWB, and again with WSU, and wanting to make sure that we are partnering our students with the employers in our community that need those, whether it's an internship or part-time position. Next slide, please. Here's just a picture and the address of where you can go to the WashingtonWorkforcePortal.org, and whether you're a student or you're an employer, you can build an account there and be able to post your position and start looking for matches for that. Next slide, please. Despite the pandemic, you know, the world is moving on. We're continuing to add new programs, look at new programs, wanting to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our community. So we did this past fall, just launched our 8th baccalaureate program in health physics, which is a pathway for those students that are in our associate's degree in the nuclear technology fields. We also just launched an Associate of Applied Science in Agricultural Production, which you can see some various certificates there. And we're excited that these programs also received that career launch endorsement. So that's been a great boost for that. And so the newest one that we're looking at right now would be a new BAS in community health that we're reviewing to see what the needs are for that in our community. Next slide, please. We're also trying to ensure that we're meeting the needs of the different student populations that we are serving. And so some of our programs, we have begun offering those in Spanish. Math 100 is the college level math requirement for several programs that are in an AAS area. And so, and as well as our ECE 1 certificate. It's also obviously offered in English, but we've begun offering that in Spanish as well. Next slide, please. We've also brought some new services to our campus, and so that includes career services, making sure that we are partnering, again, our students with the business and industry, and that we are also supporting them from their first day at CBC to their last day. So we have a case management model of advising. So everybody is assigned a completion coach. So those completion coaches have a small caseload of around 350. That might sound high, but a few years ago, it was at 1,500. So this is a significant reduction and really allows the students to get a lot more individual support and help with their education. Next slide, please. If you have driven by 182 and you're seeing the campus and wondering what in the world is going on over there, this is what is coming. So it's our new Student Recreation Center that students in 2017 voted to, in essence, assess themselves a new fee that they would be able to bring this wonderful new facility to our community that would offer an expanded fitness center. We have we'll have three different courts: a competition, a recreation, and a practice court, with lots of classroom and instruction space as well for different programs that will utilize this. Next slide, please. This is just another view of the new building. Next slide, please. So plans for fall. So since the fall of 2020, we flipped from pre-pandemic to having about 75% of our instruction was face-to-face or in a hybrid format, and 25% was online. This past fall, we were at 95% online and only 5% face-to-face. So we were very fortunate last May with all of the technical programs that fell into, especially those essential industries that the governor was indicating. We were allowed to return all our health sciences programs, welding, automotive, those types, and have continued to increase those programs. So our labs, all of those programs that have that hands-on instructional component have been on campus. We're also adding some gen ed classes, so they could absolutely continue to be taught remotely. They're being taught on campus this quarter right now. Most of them are in a hybrid format. So sometimes students are on campus a couple days a week. Some are in the high flex. So students have the option from day to day, whether they choose to be online or whether they're going to be in person, and they can adjust that from day to day depending on what is going on in their personal life. So we are hoping that this upcoming fall that we're going to continue to increase those. We have been measuring all of our classrooms because we know that we need to still, despite the fact that we believe everybody will have access that wants to have access to the vaccine by fall, will have that. But we know we're still going to have to be maintaining that 6-foot distancing. Most recently, Dr. Shaw and the Deputy Secretary, her name's escaping me, had met with the presidents in the CTC systems and talking about what to expect for the fall. And we know that those health and safety protocols are something that's still going to be required. So we're being really creative with the uses on the use of different spaces on campus. So our Jury Center, which is typically used for large, meetings that can hold 400 or 500 people, we're breaking that into 3 different classrooms so that we can still have as many classes on campus as possible. We can't necessarily meet the demand for the different courses if we just cut all of the caps for those classes in half to be able to accommodate the existing class size. So we're being really creative, and we're also going to be having our services return to campus. Our plans are for September 1st, but again, those will be in a hybrid fashion. So we'll still have those that will be offered virtually as they have been up till now, but we'll also have options of in-person. And we've done a couple different surveys of our students, and as you can imagine, their responses are all over the board. So they want both. Some want to not have to come to campus yet, and some are dying to come back to campus. So we're going to make sure that we have both options available for them. Next slide, please, which is my last slide. So we are in the process of developing our next strategic plan. So again, wanting to make sure that we are constantly staying attuned to what the needs of our community are and that we are addressing those needs. We're in the process, we're using an appreciative inquiry process. So we are setting up, and we have set up a variety of appreciative interviews and listening sessions. You can see the website here. And we need to hear, we already have, I think, close to 200 people that have signed up from both our campus and our community. But we need to have more folks from our community that are signing up to give us their feedback. We want to hear what we're doing well. We want to hear what things we can be continuing to build on and do even better, and what the needs are of our community. We have both open sessions, and we have several affinity groups that are just designed around individuals that have shared identities, and wanting those that want a safe space to feel free to share that unvarnished feedback with us, that they have that ability to do so. So for those that are listening, we would ask you to go to that website and sign up and be part of our process. Thanks so much.
Wow, great job. It's just amazing to see everything you guys have going on. And I think for sure we can help get the word out on the strategic plan. That's any feedback so far? Is it still pretty early on any new directions or anything in the strategic plan, or how's that going?
It's been going great. Actually, our cabinet just did, in essence, our appreciative inquiry process this morning, and it is just amazing because it's just such a positive process. The focus is not, what's wrong with this institution? How can we help you, get better? It's what are the great things that are already happening there? What are the experiences that you have that, stick with you, and how can we build on those and make sure that's the experience for everyone? So it's been a really positive experience, and I think a lot of the things we're hearing are things that, have been our focus anyway. Our existing plan expired actually in 2020, and because of the pandemic, we ended up losing some time. So the new plan is slated to go to our Board of Trustees in June. You know, as I said to them, it's not like without a plan for 6 months, we're not going to know what we're doing. We know exactly what our priorities are and what our work is, but we want to make sure that we don't have any blind spots and so that we're hearing broadly. So that's what this process is really allowing us to do.
All right. Well, that sounds great. Thanks for that presentation. We will now shift to Sandra and hear about WSU Tri Cities. Take it away, Sandra.
Great. Well, thank you. It really is a pleasure to be here today. Although I can say that you're probably going to get a little bit of repetition between what I have to say and what Rebekah had to say. Often when I follow her in a presentation, I just say what Rebekah said and we leave it at that. No, we don't leave it at that, but there's a lot of crossover, and of course CBC is a tremendous partner to us, and so it's always my pleasure to be in a presentation with Rebekah. So anyway, I'll give you, oh sorry, I've got to get used to this. Next slide, please. Give you a little bit of background. We have just over 1,700 students, and that includes those students who are seeking baccalaureate degrees and also graduate degrees. Of that group, 44% identify as ethnic minority and 43% are first in their families who attend college. So we currently have a 15-to-1 student to faculty ratio, and this allows for a lot of interaction between students and their faculty members, which is tremendous for students and their education. Our faculty also work very closely with industry, and so the result is that we have industry prepared graduates, and because of that, we have a 92% job or graduate school placement rate after graduation. Our degree programs were designed to meet regional industry needs, and that also helps with our job placement rate. And we've especially focused on the needs in the community in business, education, engineering, computer science, nursing, and in wine science. Always noted for wine science. Next slide, please. These are all the reasons why students choose WSU Tri Cities. We're situated on a beautiful, excuse me, the beautiful North Richland campus in a prime location in the Tri Cities Research District. As a top tier R1, we call it R1 Research University, we are not only educating students, but we are helpful in finding solutions to local and global issues. Next slide, please. As you can see in this slide, we have not been resting during the pandemic. We have changed campus in a lot of ways. Physically, we're changing campus with our newest edition of the WSU Tri Cities new academic building, which is scheduled to officially open in fall 2021, but we should take possession of it this June. So we're very excited about it. The building looks a little different than it does in that upper left-hand corner, less snow on it for sure at this time of year. But the building will host a range of science and teaching laboratories, classrooms, a lot of study spaces for students, and an open auditorium style seating area that will be ideal for presentations, not just for our students, but for the community as well. If you look across from, or in the middle picture there, you'll see that our Stories Veterans Monument has recently undergone some major changes that not only sort of changed the face of the self-entry of our campus, but it emphasizes the fact that we are known for our military veteran resources and support on campus. We plan to hold an official unveiling and celebration in the fall of 2021 when we can have more people on campus to help us celebrate. And the next picture you can see is a renovation of our campus library. And we've just started that. You can see it's still a bit of a mess, but what we're doing is we are taking the lower level of the library and turning it into what we're calling a learning commons. So the Learning Commons is going to house all of our student academic resources and support services, including tutoring, the writing center, advising offices, trio support services, and a few more things will be in there. So what this does is it gives students a one-stop shop for all of their academic support needs. The second floor of the library is what you're seeing in the picture, and that's where we're going to have the traditional library, the reference desk, the stacks, and those kinds of things. So we're also making some changes to help students succeed and afford college. We are creating pathways in particular for students to easily transfer to WSU Tri Cities. I think one of the interesting things, and a little bit different than what's happening at CBC, is our transfer student population is down, whereas our new student or the admits, at least for this fall, are up a little bit. So it's kind of the opposite of what's happening at CBC. And it's not really a surprise given that the community college enrollment is down. Of course, our transfer student population is down, but we want to try to make sure that students are still served. Their transfer students are still served. So last fall, we and of course our close partner Columbia Basin College revamped what we're calling the Bridges program. And that's a seamless transfer program for CBC students into WSU Tri Cities. If students opt for this program, they save on the costs because the tuition is frozen from their first year at WSU Tri Cities after transferring from CBC. We also offer a no-cost transfer application, and we provide advising and student resources supports throughout their journey from CBC to WSU Tri Cities. We're with them every step of the way. We also started what we're calling the I-82 Advantage, offering in-state tuition rates for students from Umatilla County in Oregon. And this is going to provide greater affordable access for students who are separated from WSU Tri Cities by a 30-minute drive and the Columbia River. So we're very excited about that. One other thing that we did last year in response to the pandemic, and we will continue this year, is we started a program called Jumpstart. And Jumpstart is comprised of several courses that a student takes leading up to the start of fall semester to help make sure students are prepared to start their college courses. And we offer topics like academic reading, academic writing, math, study skills, and other things, applicable short courses. We have opened this program to all college-bound students, not just those coming to WSU Tri Cities. And it's a free resource then to all students who might be interested in taking this Jumpstart program. Next slide, please. As I mentioned before, our faculty integrate their coursework and engage directly with regional companies and organizations to provide real-world opportunities in the classroom and also provide cutting-edge research to help solve our most pressing issues in the Mid-Columbia region and the state and really in the world. Some of the examples that you might have heard of is that we've developed robotics to inspect the Hanford tanks to make sure people don't have to go in there into dangerous environments or potentially dangerous environments. We create, and if you haven't tried it yet, I wholly recommend that you should. We create what we call blended learning, which is a wine, and we do this by partnering with regional wineries and vineyards for the development of student-made wines. What's really nice about these is that a percentage allocation of Washington wine sales goes then to support WSU wine research at the Wine Science Center. And we have a lot of capstone design courses, especially for engineering, computer science, and even in the social sciences. So we work with Hanford and PNNL and a variety of engineering and technology firms across the region, and even some nonprofit agencies to make sure our students graduate with hands-on real-world experience. We've also worked to establish some key regional partnerships, and some of those include the 3 WSU PNNL joint institutes. One is the Advanced Grid Institute, the other is the Nuclear Institute, but the one I love the most because it will be housed on the WSU Tri Cities campus after well, hopefully starting July 1st, we'll see, we're in the process of hiring, is the Bioproducts Institute. And the person who takes on the directorship of the Bioproducts Institute will also direct the Biosciences Engineering Laboratory, which is another shared facility with PNNL that's housed on the WSU Tri Cities campus. We have a very large endowment from the Cadillac Foundation to support nursing, and we've recently expanded that to start social work education, and that's a much needed program here in the Tri-Cities and everywhere really during this pandemic. And we are working closely with the Hanford contractors on workforce development. Next slide, please. Our recent equity, inclusion, and social justice efforts have been very successful over the course of the year, starting with the addition of the Mosaic Center for Student Inclusion. Our community classroom series, which is a series of lectures that are offered to the community, as the name would suggest, has received a great deal of positive feedback, and the participation from the Tri-Cities community has just been outstanding. Next slide, please. Last spring and this fall, just like CBC, we held classes virtually amid the COVID-19 pandemic. We brought innovative technology, though, into the classroom to continue an excellent classroom experience. And if you look at the slide to my top right, I hope that that's how you're seeing it, you'll see a technology called Learning Glass. And this is a backlit pane of glass that allows faculty to produce short video recorded lessons that present the material visually, that allow the faculty to directly address the audience. So they're writing, the writing's coming out so that it can be read, and they are looking at their audience. So this technology really leads to higher engagement and better course retention, and also provides short lessons that the students can revisit later, which is all very helpful. WSU, like CBC, has outfitted all of our classrooms with virtual learning tools so that once we return for in-person learning, students who are unable to attend a class in person can still attend virtually. I'm not sure what this does to snow days, but we're not talking about that yet. So we all know, and as Rebekah said as well, the largest population affected by the COVID pandemic are low-income and minority populations. So knowing that Tri-Cities, WSU Tri Cities has focused our efforts to help students continue with their education in order to provide a better life for themselves and their families. That's the ultimate goal. So we've seen a broad range of community support for student resources, for which we are very grateful. Some of these examples include donations from STCU for student hardship funds, and also from PNNL for the same reason. Cadwell donated student laptops to us, and Lamb Weston gave us a large supply of disposable masks and $25,000 gift for our Cougar cupboard. We've also increased our mental health services and programming because, again, this is very important during this pandemic. Next slide, please. WSU Tri Cities plans to safely bring back faculty, staff, and students to campus this fall for in-person instructions. So many more of our courses, and especially our labs and those things with necessary hands-on experience, as Rebekah said, will be provided in person, all while abiding strictly to any state and health regulations. So our plans will be based on an algorithm that matches our classroom capacity, and we'll publish that very, very soon. Next slide, please. Our strategic plan was actually just finished last fall, and it calls for an exploration of offering more and different degree programs that fit our regional needs. We've heard from the community for a need for a highly trained professional in the following career paths: agriculture, ag tech, food processing, social work, communication, and criminal justice. So we'll be looking at how we might be able to offer those. Next slide, please. Trying to hurry up as we get to the end here. The Tri Cities, we're capitalizing on the Tri Cities unique and rich energy setting that makes it a hub for energy and environmental related issues. Of course, you all know that we have a ton of resources for decarbonizing our environment. We have nuclear, solar, wind, and hydropower. We also have nuclear power. We have on our campus the capacity to do a lot of research on non-carbonized fuels. So a lot of biofuels come out of WSU Tri Cities. And we want to make sure that we capitalize on this and help our Tri-Cities community become the leader in energy and the environment. So in the next week, WSU Tri-Cities is going to announce a lead gift from a very valued member of our community to endow a professorship in energy systems. And this is the first step that we're taking in establishing the Institute for Northwest Energy Futures, which will then focus on the evolution of Northwest regional energy systems through integrating our research and education. Next slide, please. I believe that Rebekah covered these, so I won't repeat them, but as you know, as she has said, there is a vast divide and a need for increasing the college attainment rates in our area. And so next slide, please, sorry. How do we intend to try to increase college attendance? We will reach out early. We will make sure that those students in K-12 know about us and have pathways into college, their college education. We have STEM camps, we have Gear Up grants, we have all kinds of things to make sure that we get our K-12 students into college. We're going to amplify the affordability message. It's really a blessing to be in the state of Washington with the Washington College State Grant. It is amazing. Our students at WSU Tri Cities, about half of them don't pay anything out of pocket, which is great. We'll also help students fill out their FAFSA and their WASFA. We are creating direct pathways to industry. As Rebekah already said, we are partners in the workforce portal, which will help expose our students to internships and get quality internships to the students who want them. Next slide, please. We are advocates for higher education funding, and we hope that you are too. Right now, higher education in the state is operating at similar levels in state funding that was allocated prior to the Great Recession of 2008. We're very thankful to the state legislature for their support in raising financial aid for students, but there's still a lot to be done, and we want to make sure that we're urging our legislatures to, at a minimum, maintain funding for higher education. If we lose funds, it only serves to hurt our most sensitive populations by increasing their share of tuition. Next slide, please. And I think that this is my last slide. I just want you to know that despite COVID-19, right now is still an excellent time to earn your degree. It is affordable and it is future-proofing more than, typically we say that college grads earn about $1 million more over a lifetime than people who don't get a college degree. So this creates, in turn, recession-proof careers and helps us promote equity. And I will stop there because I'm way over my time.
Oh, well, I shouldn't say don't worry about it, but it's such good information. I really appreciate both of your time on, preparing that presentation, because it's a great overview of what you have going on. And let's just kick off our interactive time together. In the COVID relief bill that's, quickly moving through Congress this time, is there funds that'll be allocated maybe through state government to support higher education? Is that part of it, hopefully?
We'll let Rebekah start.
Yeah, so we were fortunate in the CARES Act to receive both funds that came directly to the institution, I think we had close to 4 million in CARES, and half of that was given directly to students in the form of student emergency grants. And then we did also receive some funds through the state government from the governor's office that he gave to, several different areas of higher education. So we got funds both ways. Through CRISA, through the second stimulus, we did get another allocation for that. And it's great getting these funds, but the challenge is they're one-time dollars and they come with lots of strings attached. So the second allocation is, we're actually just opening our second application for the next round of student emergency grants that'll open on April 5th when our spring quarter starts. And we'll have about more than $3.5 million to give out to students through that. And then, yes, in the third round, we are, at least our national association, AACC, has indicated that we will be receiving money directly to the institutions, and indicated that it will be larger than what we got through CRISA. So we're waiting to see what those final numbers are. And half of that will go directly to students, again, in the form of emergency grants.
That's great.
Yeah.
Sandra, similar, I know, like you said, you're following Rebekah, but.
I am following Rebekah. Ours is slightly more complicated and less complicated at the same time, because any of the state funding or federal funding goes directly to the system office. And so we'll be allocated our share of the funding from the system office, which makes that slightly less complicated in at least accessing that funding for us.
Yeah, I think it's important just to try to maintain some of your infrastructure, which includes obviously, not just professional staff and certified professors and instructors, but then also everybody that works at your campuses to try to keep some semblance of, keeping all the great work they have going, so that as we do come out of COVID, that you don't have to scramble to ramp back up. So hopefully those funds can, help you guys both maintain your capacity for sure.
Absolutely. Yes, and they have done that.
Yeah. So I have some specific questions based on the presentation that we just watched. And Rebekah, I wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about Career Connect Tech. I know that was one of your slides, and
yeah.
How does that work? And what are some of the details for it or with it?
So this is modeled after it's a national model that IBM started called PTech. So that's Pathways in Technology, Early College, High School. So it's an early college model where, in essence, students will be, I usually describe it as it's kind of the best of all the different programs we already have in the state, like Running Start, but on steroids, and it brings them all together. So it students that are admitted into the program, they'll be working on both, their high school requirements at the same time that they're getting college credit. So when they graduate, and it's designed as a 6-year program, but our understanding is, and my experience with early colleges in Michigan, where the state that I came from, is students absolutely graduate early. So they're graduating early with both that associate's degree as well as their high school diploma. But then, because it got that career launch endorsement, because along the way with those industry partners, that career launch endorsement's really intended to designate a really intensive career connected learning experience for those students. So they're not just, in the classroom or on a college campus, so they're getting that exposure at the same time, but they're really going to be out in the workforce and being able to apply what they're learning in the classroom directly at one of those employer partners and getting that hands-on experience. And then they're also going to be able to be considered kind of first in line for after they graduate for positions that, as they're interning and they're graduating, so that they can be interviewing and perhaps secure employment at one of those industry partners.
Okay, that's great. As we all come out of COVID, as we talk to companies literally every day that are interested in moving to the Tri Cities, being able to give them a good understanding of what's available, in higher ed, the PTech program that you just talked about would be a great example, as well as everything that all you guys do, and realizing sometimes, there is potentially that disconnect in between industry and higher ed. But I think what you both shown in your presentations is that we actually do have a really good connection, be it the placement rate, Sandra, that you talked about, or all of the industry involvement, it's such a critical pathway, and there's always kind of this ongoing discussion about the value of education, and especially higher education. But when you talk about those 70% demand from industry in 2030, it clearly shows the connection in between that. And that's, by no means way, or I'm not trying to say that the value of education, especially like a liberal arts education, like some of us get, isn't important, but to have that connection, that is lined up with the industry, so important. And I just want to throw out, maybe this can be our next topic, is, what can we do, like as TRIDEC, with our member base and different industries and different businesses, and then our other partners, from the regional chamber, to help even strengthen that connection with industry, and help bring them to the table, and help you guys meet some of your goals, because clearly we have a lot of work together to do to meet those educational requirements. But do you have any ideas or thoughts about how can we help? How can we help fill some of those gaps?
Well, I would start with a couple of things. I mean, one of the things you had mentioned, the importance of education, and so this is a little off topic. I'm taking a step backwards in your comment. I just want to say, when we're talking about economic development, and in your job, as you're trying to attract companies to our area, I think, most of them are looking for quality education and an educated workforce. And so it's really exciting to me to be in an area where education is so valued and is so good. And that goes from our K-12 providers to CBC to WSU Tri Cities. We really do have quality education, and I don't think you can underestimate its value in economic development. So I think some ways that you might help us is to certainly encourage, and maybe I'm doing that right now, employers to go to the workforce portal and input your information to get interns. Consider hosting an intern if you never have hosted an intern. For WSU Tri Cities, we try to do a lot of hands-on experience. I mentioned a few of those things in my presentation, and some of the more obvious ones are in the sciences or in engineering. But even in those liberal arts, students need to have hands-on experience. How is it that you're going to take this degree and apply it to a job when you graduate? And you kind of give them that experience, and you make that connection for them very real. And nothing like a good liberal arts or social science internship to help cement that as well. So all companies and all jobs are welcome in there.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I would just add that and you guys have already done a phenomenal job with this, but as you are talking to potential companies that want to move into the area, or even existing companies, and you are hearing what their needs are, if it is not programs that we already have that exist, or if it's programs that we do have that need to expand. We can obviously, we're fortunate, community colleges can typically move a little faster sometimes. And we're pretty flexible, but it still takes time, to develop a program. So the earlier, the better that we know that there's a new program that's needed to be able to, provide those employees that pipeline for those jobs, the sooner the better. So just keeping those lines of communication open between education and industry, and you guys being a great conduit for that.
Thank you for that. I think, just even what you're talking about, Rebekah, the programs that you're off are going to add maybe in the fall, like an AAS in agricultural production and those type of things. I think that those are great. And I know you guys are so great at being flexible, where you can take some classes out of an existing pathway and kind of recombine them, maybe add a couple sections or something to kind of create that customized, if it's a workforce certificate, or if it does have an AAS or something associated with it. And that's exactly what everybody wants, whether it's an existing company as they grow, or the companies that we're talking to. And that kind of flexibility, as well as that bridging. And I love that logo. Like, next time you guys are on, I'm going to have to get like a hat with that logo or something. I struggle, like, if I got the cougar and I got to go to the bookstore and get my CBC mug, and what am I going to do? So, maybe if I can just get that on a hat, I'll be set. But I think it's very representative of the work that you guys do together, because
Yeah.
it's so critical to what we're trying to do. So I wondered if, Sandra, maybe you could talk a little bit more about, you hit on the new Institute of Northwest Energy Futures. Do you want to say a little bit more about that? I think it's really exciting, because I think you hit on it really well. Like, we're probably the only place that I know of that within a half-hour drive, you can go and touch on those 4 non-carbon producing electrical generating systems, which is really unique. And then also the other work that's being done at WSU Tri Cities. So can you speak a little bit more about that? Or that just seems like a really exciting program.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. It is very, very, very exciting. And that's exactly why we're doing it, is because we are such an energy resource rich environment, and we've used that to our advantage, as we should use it to our advantage. You know, the area was really founded, or partly founded, at least, because we had hydropower, and that brought Hanford to us, which started us on down the path to nuclear. And as I say, a little tongue in cheek all the time, goodness knows we have wind around here, and we also have a lot of sun, which I've been delighted to see much more of lately. So we've got those kind of power sources at our fingertips, and we also have agriculture around us, and we have agricultural byproducts, and we're using those to make biofuels, which is also very important. WSU Tri Cities was actually part of the test flight in Alaska Airlines using only biofuels, which was very, very exciting for us. So we have all the resources that we need here to do some pretty innovative work and to help our environment by producing non-carbonized fuel and non-carbonized energy, power energy, I should say. The other thing that's very exciting about this is we still need to figure out a system for how to make all of these things work together. We need to make our power grid work well as we're putting all of these sources of energy into it. And need to look no further than Texas a few weeks ago and know how important it is to have a well-functioning power grid. And that's a complex problem if you're adding all these sources of energy into it. And so we want to be at the forefront of all of the energy issues that are out there, including how to make these systems work together.
Yeah, oh, that's great. So we did have a question in the question and answer box, and I think you guys touched on a little bit, but maybe we could go in a little bit more depth. How will your COVID experience of doing so much teaching online transform or inform your institution in the future? So I think even after we come back from, you know, COVID protocols, are you learning in that hybrid or that online environment? And will some of that, you know, carry on into the future? And we'll just have a jump ball, whoever wants to get in there first.
I'll say there have absolutely been some silver linings of the pandemic. Some things that, you know, we said, oh, we can never do it that way. Well, gosh, look, when you have no other options, you certainly can, and you can do it in a week. So yes. If you've ever taught online or you have taken a class online, I always say, if done well, it takes a lot more time to do it. So our faculty have now had, it's been a full year of intensive time of creating these really robust online classes. And so we just went through our tenure approval for the folks that were in their 3rd year at our institution. I met with all of them individually last week and was asking, you know, so what's next? And absolutely hearing all this work that they have invested in creating these online classes. It's not only will we absolutely still offer probably more online classes than we did before, but they are, you know, the lines between online and face-to-face classes is not what it used to be. So all of our face-to-face classes always have an online component. They still use our Canvas system. And so all of those tools will still help to reinforce those face-to-face classes. We were talking about, because pre-pandemic, we as an institution were saving for that next classroom building. We've started, having that conversation. Gosh, do we really need to now start thinking about building that next classroom building at the time that we thought we would have to? Or can we be more creative and perhaps more efficiently use some of the facilities we already have with more hybrids? So, you can use a classroom twice as much if you're using it in a hybrid format than in a face-to-face format. So there's absolutely lots of lessons that have come out of the pandemic that are going to change our future.
Great. Sandra, anything to add?
This is one of those areas I can just say what Rebekah said, because that's absolutely true, is that we're really, rethinking how we educate. And I would just add in there that our student support services will also benefit from this, because we'll be able to offer some virtual student support services, which on a commuter campus is really important. It's much easier to, right after your job or during your lunch break, to Zoom in with your advisor than to have to run all the way down to campus to meet with them. And now you've used all of that time. So I think it's very important for student support services too. I think it's also forced us to kind of look at who we educate and how we bring that degree to fruition. So a bigger focus on adult learners, I think, is very important, especially in our region. And then, of course, making sure that we can adapt to their schedules for learning. And perhaps the quarter system or the semester system isn't the way to go. Maybe shorter courses with stackable credentials leading to a degree. I think it's forced us to really, the COVID pandemic has really forced us to think outside of the box and has pushed on things that, as Rebekah said, we thought were unthinkable before.
I think that's awesome, because I think that, there's for a while, there's been this discussion that's related to what we're talking about. And that is that, when I was a kid, I didn't have like instant access to information in my pocket. Right. So, I was just looking at, I think, Rebekah, you were talking about the library, and I just thought about, like, gosh, when I was in college, it had books in it and stuff. And, do libraries still have books in them? Or, when you're going to research something, you had to go to the abridged guide to all the periodicals and then go find that periodical on the shelf, and today we just Google it and we have that instant access to information. So I think it's awesome to hear you both talk about, that COVID has kind of accelerated some of these discussions related to that. And, to your point, Sandra, about what are the different ways that we engage with people that do need to get a credential or degree to qualify for a bump up at work or to qualify for a new job or something. I think that's really great, because I think that's what we're all learning, is like, we never intended to do business out of our bonus room above our garage, but we're a year into it and here we are. So I think those are really great learnings and examples of what's coming out of this.
Agreed.
It's cool. Well, we are just about out of time. Goes by really fast, but I really, really appreciate it. It's always great to have you both on, and you guys are it's so refreshing to see how closely you partner on all your programs. And I think it's just awesome, the work that you're doing. And from, TRIDEC and our board of directors, if there's ever anything we can do to help, make sure that we're always there to try to partner even better with you. So would you each like to make a closing statement? And I will pick a particular order, and this time we're going to go with Sandra first.
Oh dear. And just say what Rebekah said then. No, I really appreciate you having us on. It's such a joy to work, as I said before, in this area that values higher education, and to be a part of how we move the region forward, because there's nothing but opportunities here, and education will be a piece of that. And I can't wait to see what happens to our economic development in the future.
Very well said. Thanks, Sandra. Rebekah.
Yeah, a bit of ditto there, because I was going to say, if Sandra and I could partner, our institutions together all day long, but if our community did not understand and appreciate the value that higher education brings to a community and the role that we play in economic development, it would just be an uphill battle. But because we have such amazing partners, that everybody works together, it really is, it makes such an impact for the Tri-Cities. Yeah, so absolutely. Thank you for having us on. And we just appreciate being part of all the work that you do. Thanks, Karl. Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you both for your time. And I'm going to go to work on that Bridges hat. So next time we're on, I can have, a nice trucker hat with the Bridges logo.
We might be able to get you a t-shirt.
Oh, either one. Well, that's awesome. You guys have a great day. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
You
Thanks for
too.
having us, Carl.
Thanks,
Bye.
Tracy.